Welcome to Training Insights, episode 14. Hi, and welcome to Training Insights, episode 14. My name is Kevin McGowan. I'm based up here in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. This podcast brought to you by Training Magazine, trainingmag.com. Now today we're going to be speaking with Matt Pierce. He's a customer support manager at TechSmith Corporation. He's based in Lansing, Michigan, kind of near Detroit and Ann Arbor in that kind of general area. Now, Matt is customer support manager, and obviously their company sells video recording software at Camtasia and things like that, Snagit. But Matt is also just an expert in terms of how to use these things pretty effectively. One topic that's near and dear to his heart is onboarding. He's been involved with a number of interesting onboarding projects. So I wanted to ask him specifically about how we might be able to leverage video in onboarding. Not selling the products he sells necessarily, but more conceptually, how can this be an effective mode of doing your onboarding really well? And with that, let's head off to Michigan and talk with Matt Pierce. First, you can hear a little hold music.
And Matt Pierce, welcome to Training Insights.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm glad I could join you today.
Well, it's a privilege to have you. I know you work for TechSmith, which is a large company, and you make a couple of products that I know I use on a regular basis, Camtasia being one, Snagit to a lesser degree. But how long have you been with the company?
I've actually been with TechSmith for about 11 years now. So it's been I like to say I'm really old in the tech industry because I've been there for a long time, but it's been a fantastic voyage, and TechSmith is a great company that has allowed me to have a lot of different opportunities to try different types of roles.
And your current role, I'm just looking at your bio on the website, is you're a learning and video ambassador. I can kind of imagine what that is, but why don't you give me the basic lowdown on what that role means?
Yeah, so what the role of a learning and video ambassador does is really, I'm an outward face for TechSmith. I get to go out and do things like speaking at conferences and writing content, talking and promoting video. And really at the heart of it is that idea that we want our customers and really anyone to start to get better at using video, because we think there's such potential there for people to make better training, better marketing, better content that's going to speak to their audience, because video is such a dynamic kind of medium that you can do a lot with it, and we really believe in its power. And so my role is to promote that and help people to get better at it.
Oh, it totally makes sense to me, and understood. You're working for TechSmith, and obviously you're interested in the bottom line of the company, but also in just promoting video generally in terms of its quality and usership.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, you want your company to be successful. They're paying the bills at home. And what we really believe is that if we help people to make better video, they learn how to do the basics, they learn how to do things better, hopefully we become a trusted partner in that. And that partnership will hopefully extend to them wanting to try our products and see what they can do for them, because we do make a video editor. We do make visual communication tools, and we want people to know that, if they use those, they can do a lot of great things. And some will choose to take the information and go to other products, and that's okay, because we feel like kind of this is the tide lifts all boats. If we make everyone a bit better, it helps them to get their jobs done, which then, eventually, hopefully, they'll find a place for us in their kind of digital toolbox. Very
healthy attitude, Matt. I like the you're right about everybody stays afloat and everybody's helping each other out. That's fantastic.
We found it's worked well for the company over the last 30 years, so it's a good thing.
Yeah. I know you've got a keen interest in onboarding specifically. Can you tell me maybe just for those of us at home, or can you tell me what onboarding really means to you for an organization?
Yeah, it's a great question, because I think we talk about, there's lots of different types of onboarding that in a tech company get thrown around, you got to get people on board your product. When we're talking about in the company from a training perspective, really it's that first, 0 to kind of, it could be up to a year, it could be longer, depends on your organization, what you're doing to help your employees to get grounded and rooted and understand not only their role at the organization, but to understand the organization as a whole, what they need to do, how they need to act, what are the cultural norms, what are the values that they should be thinking about and aspiring to, and then just kind of how do things function? What's the business do? So there's lots of pieces that go into it, and it's really that orientation and starting to get yourself kind of look. If you can think about like a map, you orient to a map, right? And you look at it and say, okay, that's north, this is east. It's that same process within an organization, because when you go in an organization, you probably don't know a lot. And if you don't know a lot, it's like, well, where do I start and how do I move from point A to point B? Even though that's not the destination, that's a waypoint along the journey.
Right. I've worked at a number of companies and organizations over the years, as I'm sure you have, and I've seen a lot of different onboarding methods. Anything from here's the manual, drop it on your desk and you walk away, and that's your onboarding, to lots of introductory meetings with, for different departments and kind of getting acquainted with the company and its different facets. Some were really well planned out, some were not. I'm just curious if you have a specific, don't have to name names certainly, but an example of good or bad onboarding for your own personal experience.
Well, not to name any names, but I've been through a couple places and really with zero onboarding, it's more like, here you go. Oh, by the way, there's maybe some people you should meet. And, and that's a reality, because that's a very cost-effective way to get someone onboarded. Don't do anything. It's not maybe an effective way, but it's cost-effective. And it might work. You might be able to say, we got 15 people, just go meet everybody, you'll figure it out. But when you start to get to 100 people or 200 or 500 or, even 10,000, all of a sudden it becomes much, much more difficult, because that map, if we can use that analogy again, becomes much more complicated. Instead of just seeing the streets, now you're seeing all the houses and the yards and what's in the yards. And it's like, oh my gosh, there's so many details. And it's easy to get lost on what to focus on. And so the most ineffective is to do nothing. Others I've seen that, and I think I've even been guilty of this, is saying to a new employee, here you go, here's a list of things that you should be thinking about or doing, and here's your list of people to visit, and not giving much other structure. And I'm not saying we have to go crazy here. I don't think we have to, here's everything you're going to do in the first 90 days. I think you want autonomy for your employees. You want them to be able to feel things out. You want them to take that initiative. But there are things that you definitely want to be able to give them and say, this is really critical information. And a good way to start with that is to say, when I started, what do I wish someone had told me? What information do I wish someone had given to me to make that first week or first month or first 90 days a little bit easier and a little bit smoother?
Mm-hmm. What I found interesting many things interesting, but one key thing that stuck out to me there is as the organization grows, it becomes harder and harder to do this with maybe your old methods or by doing nothing, certainly. And there's certainly a lot of challenges with companies aren't just in one spot. You're going to have remote offices, remote employees, entire teams or lines of business that are going to be in other countries or time zones. So how can you let's parlay this into the video conversation. How can you start using video more effectively for your onboarding, especially in a case where you're going to have a distributed staff like that?
Yeah, it's really, and it's a great thing we have video, because it is really tough. And it's not even just the distribution, although that's a big factor for a lot of organizations. It's just even access sometimes. If you have 200 people and you have a CEO that wants to maybe meet with people or convey to them some information, just the time of access for that person is difficult. It doesn't matter if the people are all co-located or distributed. It's the same type of challenge. And I think what video does is it captures not only the words that are being said, which, you can write up a document, sure, but video is going to capture those words. It's going to capture the sound, the intonation, the expressions, and really even emotion of that person. Do they look happy to be here? Are they excited about what they're telling you about? And those things are really critical. If you're in your first week and you feel like everyone is just a sourpuss, like, why? Did I make the right decision? Am I in the right place? But if you see some enthusiasm, and that's something you can really convey with video. You can put people in their natural environment. whether that's their office or in, someplace in their location. So let's say we have a partner who's in the UK and London office, and they have got some key information. I mean, how cool is it to see, like, oh man, this company they're in London, and I can see that, and I can feel what that environment's like for them, even though I might be in Omaha or Michigan or wherever I might be. And so I think there's lots of these pieces that video can help you to convey that aren't necessarily the words. Don't get me wrong, the words are really critical that you use, but these other pieces come into play that video is really good at. Even if like you did an audio podcast, that's another thing you could do, but you miss some of the environmental factors. You miss some of that kind of facial expression, getting a feeling for who these people really are.
Yeah. I have a question for you in terms of production, because I'm 100% on board in terms of, video it helps you just get that message across, because you can everything but smell, what the office or whatever.
Thankfully.
Yeah, exactly. But in terms of the production itself, how skilled do you need to be to do this effectively? Because I've seen, again, there's a range of really good videos, and there's some that maybe not. So what kind of advice might you have for people who aren't quite sure how to do this and do it well?
Well, my advice for people, especially if they're thinking about this and like, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start with video. The first thing I tell people is just make something. The quality conversation can come a little bit later. And especially if you're getting started. So if you're an organization, you're like, guys, we got to do something with video. We're not really sure. We don't have a video person on staff. We don't have high-end equipment or any even, all we got is our phones. The cool thing is you can do some really great work with your phone by just applying a few little principles, with framing and, maybe adding a little light if you can, or making sure it's not at least too dark or too bright. Ideally, you would add a microphone in so you have better audio quality. But you can put something out and try it and get feedback from those new employees as they go through it. Like, hey, did the message resonate? Did you get a sense of who we are? Ask the questions that you want to know about, and then say, if it's like, they're like, yeah, that worked pretty well. Oh, man, but I couldn't stand watching it. Okay, well, we can go up kind of level in terms of quality, and maybe we hire someone to do that, or we go out and learn. But my guess is, and unless you're like a big multinational with lots of budget where everything is expected to be super polished, there's a lot of things you can do, just kind of what we call in the video business, run and gun, just go and do it, test it out, and next one, make it a little bit better. And, you're going to have to swap those videos out at some point. So they don't have an infinite lifespan. In a perfect world, you'd be doing stuff that's really high quality that would last for years and years. But if you're doing it like, and like, oh, let's do this in an hour and put it out there and test it, you then have some flexibility. Now, as you get better, as you start to see that, yeah, this is going to really work for us, and you're refining your message, you're refining kind of the style, then you can introduce like a better camera, a lighting kit. So you can do like 3-point lighting, making sure that you have even a better microphone. You can step up your game, but I don't think it has to be the first thing anyone does. I think it's more about getting the message across and doing it okay. I mean, don't make it all blurry and shaky. Use a tripod, do something that makes, so there's a few basics, but I think the barriers to entries are so low to make videos that I think we just have a world of opportunity for onboarding. Because the other thing I like to think about is not only just the people, there's processes or equipment that you can do this for. One of the things we played with around here, I think was really fun, is TechSmith is very generous, and there's more liquid you can think about to drink. Like there's coffee and espresso, and there's LaCroix or LaCroix, however the brand says it, soda. There's flavored water. There's all these things, and a lot of people are really excited by the espresso machine. And I would get new employees in, and I don't know how to use the espresso machine. I'd be like, you're on your own. And so, we had someone make a video about how to use the espresso machine. And then on the espresso machine, we put a little QR code, and below it we put a little shortened URL, so if someone didn't have a QR scanner. But that way they could walk up to the espresso machine, scan the QR code, and then they'd have a video of how to use the espresso machine. And it's not something you normally think about for onboarding, but if you're an espresso drinker and you're super excited about espresso and you don't know how to use the machine, that's a great thing to learn in your first couple weeks.
That's fantastic. What a great idea.
We also had one around our alarm system. I mean, we just put up QR codes around some different things, and we've gone on and off with it, whether we keep doing them. But for that time, what we've done with it, it's actually something that I would love to see even my own company do more of, because I think when you have equipment that is specialized, and this could be anything. This could be medical equipment. This could be how to use the fax machine, the copier, access to some other piece of equipment if you're in manufacturing. I think there's lots of different things that you could think about where this might apply, or where you'd want someone to learn situationally about the thing they're in. Maybe it's a supply closet, and it's like there's no mechanical function here, but it's like, I don't find something I want. How do I request more?
Right.
Well, that's an easy thing to make a quick video for, and I don't think anyone expects the quality on that to be like professional TV grade kind of quality.
Right, yeah. Wow, Matt, that's some good insight. The espresso story is particularly interesting for me. I wouldn't have even thought to do something like that, but what a difference that would make in your organization, and that's a fun element too, which is a nice thing.
Yeah, and you can make, I think with onboarding, things to be thinking about, especially in your videos, is not just delivery of information, but really thinking about what's telling your story, and you're talking about your culture. And not to say like we need to talk about our cultural values are X, Y, and Z. It's more like show those values in play. Because video is great. It's not just we do a lot of talking head in the training industry because it's easy, and there's nothing wrong with having someone on camera talking to you. But there's so many opportunities to say, let's tell the story here, or let's show something in action that expresses who we are as a company. If we believe in integrity, is there some way that you can build that into your message in your onboarding? Because we want to reinforce those things. Just like if a salesperson is going and doing something out with their trainer when they're doing a cold call or visiting a client, you'd reinforce that value of integrity. Mm-hmm. We should be doing those things with our onboarding throughout, and video can do that really well. But it's thinking about telling the stories. What stories are there to tell? Showing people how to do things. To be frank, we've had one time an employee start at TechSmith, and I think for a week they didn't know where the bathroom was. And we were all so embarrassed that no one thought to point it out. And so, one of the first things we make sure we do now is point that out. That's, maybe somebody's just embarrassed to ask, or maybe they just don't know. And, But, and sometimes we get so busy as like managers, or if you're doing the onboarding, that you forget to say oh yeah, of course it's this place over here that you wouldn't think to look. And so you can use video again to fill those gaps.
Fascinating. Well, Matt, I'll cut it off there just because I know I could ask a million more questions, but I won't today. But maybe we can do this again.
I would love to.
Fantastic. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Matt. That was a really fascinating conversation. I enjoyed it, and I hope a lot of you got a lot out of that too. It's really interesting to think of onboarding and the different ways you can apply video to really give your new employees a sense of belonging in the company. So with that, I'll say again, thanks to Matt, thanks to you for listening, and we will see you next time on Training Insights.